Afternoon, folks. My name is Catherine Johnston, and I am the Community Outreach Coordinator at Path Employment Services. Welcome to our Let's Talk Career series. We have been hosting these series for a few months now and have had some really amazing guests on sharing their career stories with us. We're running these series as a way to inform those who may be entering into a new career or may want to change or grow their career further. We take a close-up look at as many different occupations as possible and do this from the perspective of a person working in their field. Each individual shares with us their unique journey traveled to their careers. Since this was going to be our last interview for 2020, I thought I would invite my boss on, Brad Spencer, and he can share with us his very unique and broad career journey with us, and hope we can learn some information about this career path for those of you listening. Thank you, Brad, and for joining us today and agreeing to be my guest.
Well, thank you, Catherine. You can see that you finally got to the bottom of your barrel. Now that we're getting to the end of the year 2020, yep. You've finally given me an opportunity to spill my guts in front of your viewers. So thanks for this opportunity. No I've had a long career in employment counseling and career development, and I'm happy to share some of that, a little bit about that with some of your viewers. So I understand you got a bunch of questions for me.
I do. I have a few, and then we can go off topic wherever we need to go with your story, because it's your unique journey. So, what can you tell me right now what your job title is?
Sure, I can. I'm also known for going off topic, so forgive me. That should be, one of the ground rules as we go into this, that I have a really bad tendency to do that and talk too much. So Catherine, please rein me in whenever you think.
I'll do my best.
Okay, good for you. So my title is Executive Director. And, as your viewers know, we're Path Employment Services. We work with individuals to help them, individuals with any kind of disability, typically people that are, have some kind of obstacle to, being successful in employment. That's what we're about, and it's a great pleasure to lead this organization. So I'm a very fortunate person.
And how would you say that you acquired the skills to get to where you are now? Did you attend school? Was it a lot of the jobs that you've had in the past that have brought you to here?
Yeah, both really. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to go to university, and I went to Western University years ago and obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree. Had some intentions at that time to go off into business. Actually, I was intrigued with psychology and sociology, and I was originally going to major in sociology. And then my third year of university, I got really nervous about job opportunities. Didn't seem to be a lot of jobs out there for sociologists. So I thought I should redirect my education and picked up as many business courses as I could to help me get prepared for the world beyond. I kind of always hoped someday I'd find a position in management, but really like the people aspect of my career. So really, I think having the Bachelor of Arts degree was, pivotal in the beginning part of me being able to progress in my career. It was to get in the door, you had to have a degree, or now there's, HR people, organizations are willing to look at equivalencies. So with diplomas and combination of work experience and so forth. But for my career, to get in the door, you had to have a university degree. Wasn't that important at that point in time on what degree it was, but you had to have a university degree. I think too, as I've done a lot of staffing in my career and hired other people, I have an appreciation for a university degree, as at least provides a credential of somebody that has hopefully some good capacity to think and to write. Those two things are very important in the job that I do and communicate. So I think it was a good, grounding, to begin my career.
Mhm.
If you don't mind, I'm going to step back. I was fortunate with my summer jobs when I was in university to work. Actually, I began work back when I was 12. My brother was fortunate to have a job providing janitorial service for a realty company. And so he went in on his weekends and cleaned their offices and so forth. And it just happened that he needed a helper and was willing to take me into the offices with him. So, learning those basic janitorial skills, but, it also allowed me an opportunity to develop a relationship with the individual that owned the business. And he was kind enough to give me a summer job. So I think when I was about 16, I think it was, he gave me a summer job and I went around with a tractor and I cut the grass on various properties that this realtor happened to own. And came back the next summer. And actually the realtor had become mayor. I was, Port Colborne is my hometown. So he became the mayor of Port Colborne, and he wasn't able to offer me a summer job as he had planned to do. And so he suggested to me that I apply with the city of Port Colborne. And I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to work there. Several students were hired that summer, and many of my school colleagues were hired. And I'm a very fortunate individual. My grandmother was good friends of the wife of the city engineer. So, people get talking. Networking is very important in a career. And the city engineer became aware that I was working for the city, and he made requests that I be deployed to his department. And so that gave me opportunity to handle all kinds of really interesting projects. And I had the opportunity to supervise some other students, and I worked supervising some construction contracts and the work of other people. And so it kind of got me into developing some supervisory management skills, and that helped me later on in life. No doubt I've gone all over your question.
That's okay. It's a very interesting story. So what would you say is your best quality that makes you so good at what you do in this role?
Oh, okay. I remember where we're at too. So what's my best quality? I don't know. I don't know really. I know I'm a good administrator. I've got good organizational skills. I've got good problem solving skills. I think I bring a lot of enthusiasm to work. I enjoy working. Enjoy working with other people, accomplishing things together, accomplishing things in a team. I really get a big charge out of that. And I think back on, why I went to some of my summer employment, my work with the city of Port Colborne. When I graduated university, there weren't a lot of opportunities for university grads at that time. There was the perception was you go to school and you'll come out and the workforce will be there, just dying to snap you up. And it wasn't that situation at all. So because I work, I work hard in my job, and I was known for being, a good worker, competent worker. And so they offered me, when I graduated from university, they offered me a position in the engineering department. I analyzed traffic problems and handled complaints that came to the engineering department. I drew up various drafted construction documents. I wrote contract documents for other work that the city was tendering on, and I had a lot of great opportunity. However, at that point in time, it was difficult to establish permanent positions at the city of Port Colborne. So I was working for a student rate, and this will certainly date me. I was making $4.23 an hour.
Oh my goodness.
So, I was happy to work for the city. They hired a new engineer, And yeah, I met with the engineer several times and indicated to him that a little bit more money would be a good thing. And of course, he told me that he was advocating for me and it was going to happen. I'll try to make this a shorter story than a long one. It got to a point where I gave them a letter saying that, if I'm not paid this certain amount of money by such and such a date, and you don't like to have that kind of dialogue with an employer because, you appreciate a job,
Mhm.
somebody's willing to pay you for your services,
Mhm.
and having an income is very important starting off your career. But I said to them, if I don't get this money by this date and time, this is my notice. So I was promised, it's in committee, they're establishing, looking at different positions, and we're gonna, we'll be taking care of you through that process. The date came, didn't have a job, still making $4.23 an hour. Walked into the engineer's office and I said, well, I just want to thank you for the opportunity of being here. I've learned a lot of things. I've really enjoyed working with the engineering team and some of the projects and challenges you provided me with. And now I'll, I hopefully find something that will better meet my needs. But I just want to thank you for everything. Well, the engineer was just taken back. Oh, you can't leave. You're not going to leave. There aren't jobs out there. Just didn't want me to go at all. So, but I did go. And at that point in time, you could quit a job and you could apply for unemployment insurance.
Mm.
So my friends, oh, you got to apply for, I didn't even know what it was then. The idea of the government providing you with support income when you quit a job, that seemed ridiculous to me. But anyway, it seemed like money and, don't want to be stupid about these things. So went and applied. Happened to meet an employment counselor. Didn't even know there were jobs of employment counselors out there. And the individual that I met was very helpful in talking to me about what my career interests were. And he registered me for employment and indicated to me that he would provide support to me. And as I went about looking for work, he looked at my resume and, supported me while I was going about applying to various companies. And at that point in time, we didn't have the internet, if you can believe it. Yeah, there was a time in the world where, there wasn't such a thing. And so you had to mail out your resume, kind of a jazzed up cover letter to hopefully get a call back and be invited in for an interview. So, well, it was intriguing that what happened was the employment center was actually looking for somebody to coordinate a youth employment program. And they thought, well, a young person would be good at doing something like this.
Mhm.
And so this employment counselor called me and asked me if I'd be interested. Well, I certainly was. But I guess, when I get to one of my fundamental recommendations for anybody looking at this video is that you really need to think about the interview process. Just
Mhm.
feeling good about I'm a hard worker. I've got a university degree. I've got references. All those things are important. But if you don't understand how to conduct yourself in an interview, you can be a great worker, but never get the job.
Mhm.
And I think about back to when we hired you, Catherine, that was an area that you had so much good stuff to talk about, but we get so nervous in those situations that we don't feel we always put our best foot forward.
Mhm.
Of course, we understood what you were bringing to us, and thus you're here today. But when I think back on where I was, should have spent a lot more time on interview preparation.
Mhm.
If I would have, known what I was up against, why didn't I go in and talk to somebody in the employment office and ask them how they got their jobs? What was
Mhm.
the interview process like? What do they typically throw at you in an
Yeah.
interview? Are there any kind of skill tests? Is there any way I can get prepared? Not hard questions to ask.
Mhm.
Anybody in an employment center, I've always found most helpful. They're basically in those places because they want jobs where they give something back to society. Right? The motivation isn't necessarily money, it is trying to help others. So,
Mhm.
if I would have just asked, they would have told me that, well, actually, the position that you're applying for is a youth employment counselor, and here is here's the job requirements, and they will ask you questions based on what those requirements are. Well, I was just fortunate, when they asked me to, if I was interested in the position, they gave me a pamphlet on the program that I would end up be promoting. And it was amazing the recollection I had of that pamphlet. So many questions were oriented to my knowledge of youth employment programs and knowledge of the local labor market and other things like that. Some things I inherently knew because I grew up in the city of Port Colborne, but was fortunate that I obviously spent some time reading that pamphlet, and it gave me a little bit of knowledge in being able to stand out amongst the other individuals that they interviewed for that job. So that started me on my career in employment services. So I coordinated the youth program. Then their summer employment program was starting, and that was an opportunity to coordinate jobs for students, post-secondary and secondary students, and that they were all term contracts. The concept of permanent employment just wasn't anything I was going to be comfortable with for probably 3 or more years. I went from these term contracts one to the other. So I ended up supervising employment services for 3 years. The reason I was an attractive candidate for that position was when I worked at the city of Port Colborne, I had the opportunity to supervise other students because I was in the engineering department. So that got me, you had to meet that requirement to be considered for that job. And then, first year, it was very clear what the expectations of the job were. And I did everything I could to make sure that I met those targets and surpassed them. And that so much of that is in my whole career about knowing what the expectations are of your job are and doing everything you can to try to exceed those expectations. So the student employment job turned out to be, I think there was a youth employment tax credit program that I coordinated. And then I applied on a job for an employment and information specialist position. And I landed that job, but in the meantime, I was applying for, permanent positions as an employment counselor. And again, I go back to interview preparation, that if I would have spent more time thinking about how to prepare myself effectively for interviews, I would have landed an employment counselor position way before I did. So, School of Hard Knocks, I knew the job of an employment officer. It was employment insurance officer, it was the title. I knew that job inside out. So, I was okay in the interview process. I wasn't the top candidate on the list. I think I was about 5th. But as times where that became an important function in the employment services, and they gradually got to me, and I got a job posting in Niagara Falls. So that was a term contract. And while I was there, I ended up getting a permanent placement in Simcoe as an employment referral specialist or some title like that. And then, I had people that saw that I was applying for jobs as employment counselors, but not getting the job. And I was very fortunate to have some people that were willing to, dedicate some time to me as a mentor to help me improve my, preparation for this selection process. So I started to gather the knowledge required to, demonstrate that I knew these things in these interviews. And they had questions relating to your skills and abilities and so forth. So gradually, thankfully, I got better at the interview process, and I landed a permanent position as an employment counselor in Simcoe. And then was fortunate enough to land a position in Hamilton as what they called a counseling coordinator. That I was kind of there at an opportune time where the federal government was very, very interested in improving the competence of employment counseling. And they contracted out some specialized training that people that are taking like career practitioner certification are taking courses that the federal government designed years ago. And given that they were rolling out this new training, they decided to give it to the young counselors as opposed to the people that had been in the job for a long time, figuring they knew what they were doing. So I got access to all this really primo training. It was competency-based training. So you had to be able to demonstrate that you understood the concepts and the kind of the framework that they were training you on to be able to, get your certification. So I was early to get certified. Then the next module of training came out. I got certified in that. Then group employment counseling came out. I got certified in that. And then this position in Hamilton was oriented to helping other employment counselors kind of meet the certification requirements and try to enhance the quality of employment counseling overall. So the job in Hamilton, there were 5 points of service at that time, one in Burlington and the rest in Hamilton in various locations. And it really gave me an opportunity to specialize in employment counseling. So love that job. As I advanced in that career, I had an opportunity to be posted as a manager. I started out in one of the smaller branches, and I got to a point where they offered me the opportunity of managing the Hamilton Central office on Wellington Street in Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the kind of the hub office, so other offices reported to it. Loved that job, had a large staff, a good number of people that just wanted to do great work for the public. Work teams were kind of the new culture in management at that point in time. This is the early 80s, and it was a great opportunity to build self-directed work teams. They weren't so much self-directed as they were kind of empowered work groups, and had great success through that. People just so energized, setting their own targets and blowing them away, and doing high fives with, and it was a challenge to reward them. And people at that point in time wanted to learn more about these computers and, software programs and so forth. So, developmental time became the reward. I love that work. I loved working with those people. And then they restructured the offices, and I was going to be put in a situation where I was going to have to step back to a supervisory role. And there was a time where, the federal government had decided there's too many public servants, and there was an incentive program to leave. So within the incentive program was a good chunk of salary and a $7,000 training allowance. And, it was just, I wasn't too excited about stepping back in my career. I wanted to move forward. So I put in for the departure package incentive, and the director was good enough to accept me, and I then set my sights on what's my next step, and that's where through the community contacts I'd made, and it's all it's networking and relationships. You've probably heard this many times yourself, Catherine, and I know you're a wonderful networker. It becomes critical in next steps. So I had some contacts with Goodwill Industries. It was Amity Goodwill at that time, and had an opportunity to apply for work there. And I love their executive director, Peter McDonald, and got on with him very well. And I was very fortunate to I ended my job with HRDC. 2 weeks later, started my job with Goodwill Industries. I worked my way up in Goodwill and, achieved the position of Vice President of Workforce Development. And as I started off, I was their training and development manager. And I got really involved in labor relations so that parts of Goodwill became unionized. And I found that at that point in time, success in collective or work with the union was a lot about communication and fairness. So, for me, integrity, honesty, those kind of qualities that a lot of people take for granted. If you get known for that, having a reputation for integrity and honesty and getting the job done, that carries you very far. And it was, critical in my relationships with the unions to, be seen as somebody that cared about the workforce, which I did, and to, advocate on their behalf if things that we were doing in management practices were out of sync or going the wrong direction, and make things right.
Mhm.
So I enjoyed that aspect of the job. Heavy reliance on good communication skills. I had the opportunity to negotiate some collective agreements. So, really, overall, really enjoyed that work. But I missed my employment connection. So it's, the work with, individuals or employment teams and that type of thing. I love the difference that you have the potential to make in people's lives with a job. Is, you sing the same song as I do, Catherine, that
Mhm.
a job is everything. You take somebody who is, lacking direction and not too sure how they might pay the rent in a few months going forward, or, that, and then, a job and everything's different. So, like it's a wonderful, career to be involved in employment services. It just does so much for people. I remember talking to one of my managers years ago saying, and I was a new manager, and I was saying, I really miss, kind of the connection to clients. And she said to me, Brad, you got to think of it a little differently, that now you're working through other people, and with other people. And you might not have a client sitting across from your desk, but your staff, they do. So, that's the shift in gears, so.
Mhm.
And I got to enjoy that. I got to enjoy an opportunity to develop staff and kind of inspire them to, do more, recognize the good work they do with making a difference in the lives of the clients they work with. What it was like, who wouldn't like that, right?
Mhm.
So I asked for a transfer to the workforce development department because I was in a human resources role, and just fortunate that an opportunity came up. There was some restructuring going on at Goodwill, and the president thought of me in the vice president role, and I carried on my human resources responsibilities, and I went into the workforce development department. So, not an easy thing to carry two portfolios, but as you go higher into organizations, who hasn't been asked to carry some pretty, work intensive and complicated portfolios. But anyway, I was happy to do it. And there was a lot of great things going on in workforce development at Goodwill at that time. And Goodwill as an organization was a wonderful, I think there's 188 Goodwills around the world.
Mm.
And, I got opportunities to attend conferences where you'd meet these energized folks doing amazing things. So I love Goodwill. However, as I got into my 5th year at Goodwill, I got into kind of some fundamental misalignment with the president. So our staff, our clients were very important to me, and the president was very oriented to making revenue for the organizations. Of course, my opinions are going to be skewed, but at any rate, it put me into a mode of wanting to look around for other job opportunities.
Mhm.
And so Goodwill specialized in, they help, a broad array of the population. They also work with people with disabilities. And I always took a great sense of accomplishment from making a difference with somebody that had a disability and might have been challenged with being overlooked for, some of their limitations, and as opposed to what they have the potential to do, what they can do. So, when I saw the job opportunity at PATH, PATH being an organization that worked exclusively with people with disabilities, and actually when I worked for HRDC, I supervised PATH as a contract for HRDC, and I admired the work they did, and I was really quite thrilled to have an opportunity to apply for that job. And what got me to PATH was I had a lot of employment background. Obviously, I worked for HRDC and I specialized in employment counseling, but I also had that PATH is a unionized environment. So it doesn't really might probably be surprised to know that PATH has a union, but it hasn't worked to a disadvantage at PATH at all. In my experience, it's been a means by which the terms and conditions of employment have always been clear. So, that's worked for us. But when PATH was recruiting an executive director, the union had just come into PATH. So they were kind of taken back with how is it going to work having a union, and they appreciated that they needed somebody with background with working with the union, how to handle grievances and how to negotiate collective agreements. And actually that proved to be very important in my career. That I appreciate a lot of people will watch this potentially, but in my first year at PATH, I think we had 50 grievances that I was in a mode of wanting to change things to, have it focus on employment outcomes, like achieving placements was very important. And the work group had been focused on other things. You can counsel and you can provide advice and support. And I think there was a lot of that. Good, well-intentioned people, but what I wanted to do was see the results become more evident in the way of placements achieved, job placements, number of clients coming into our services, and number of clients, we call them clients, people being placed in jobs and retaining the jobs. So, I faced a lot of resistance. Maybe they didn't like my style, or maybe they felt threatened by change or whatever it was. But, we went through a process of arguing about what time we start the job, what time we end the job, what the expectations are when you expect people to be punctual, you expect them to put in their best efforts, you expect them to, be, putting their best energies into their jobs. And anyway, so a little bit of resistance, but we got through that. And as years went on, people came into the organization, and the people that didn't get with where we were heading as an organization moved along and found other things. As years went on, some people found opportunities that paid more money or offered benefits. We were a great recruiting ground at one time for people that were in government service. So people that went on to be ODSP specialists, and people that work for the ministry. So and that's fine, like to hire somebody and have them learn, grow and develop, and have opportunity to find careers where they can, if money is, if that's an important thing, and benefits and so forth. I'm pretty happy the way PATH is as an organization right now, that we've got a robust group benefit package, and our compensation is a little bit above the median for what we do. So I feel pretty good about that as an executive director. So you can see just how fortunate I've been to have time go on and to have acquired people that, get what we're trying to do as an organization. And then really with their using kind of a more of an empowering, participative management style, allowing people to contribute to their capacity. So, Catherine, you're an example of nobody told you to go do a video series on careers as a way of helping get the message out on what PATH does. And would I have thought of that if it was up to, no, probably not. So, we've got, a great management team at PATH, and a wonderful complement of very dedicated and competent employment staff. And when I think about, what makes them so good, and it makes me think about you, Catherine, as you do this interview, that we've had times where, people have gone off on sick leave or something unexpected has happened, and you presented yourself as a solution. Hey, I could handle that. I could take that over temporarily. I could do that. Next thing you know, you're into a permanent position, and you got a director that's so thankful that you're part of our team. So
Mm.
I don't know, like your behavior on the job, when I think back on my career and what I saw from some other people and the way they've gone about their managing their careers is,
Mhm.
I work in government, and generally I've always been amazed how, the level of honesty and integrity there is in government service. But there's also this complacency sometimes where, people just, they go to work and they're not driven to, grow and develop. They think, what they do is fine. So they'll just continue to do that. And as things change, that can get people kind of out of sync, and it can become difficult. So, really, what drives excellence in people is, first of all, there has to be a buzz for you in the job that you do. That is it meaningful work? Is it helping you accomplish really what you want out of your career?
Mhm.
And then, like hopefully you're in that. So get good at it. Like I just a couple of weeks ago, I was noticing that one of our managers was, attending a training session for a second time, and I wonder why she's going to a training session that she already had. So I asked her about it, and she said, every time I attend, something new takes place, whether, it's from participants centered and somebody asks a question that draws out new information. But, she is driven to be excellent. So when she could make the time available to attend the session again, what does she do? She learns more, she gets better at it, she gains confidence in it.
Mhm.
Her competency level rises, and then next thing you know, the people that she works with are inspired. Oh,
Yeah.
She's excellent. I want to be excellent. I
Yeah.
mean, I want to be with the team. That's excellent. So, it pushes everybody in the organization to let's learn more. Let's do the very best we can. And we love the work we do. We love the people we serve. And, what can I
Our
say?
team definitely is excellent.
Well, but it's this notion of I want to get excellent. I remember talking to my granddaughter a little while ago. You want to play the piano? You got to practice.
Practice.
It's amazing what we can do as human beings with effort.
Mhm.
Put your effort into the right things. Read books that inspire you, that give you more depth of knowledge. Well, that's me. Like if I'm going to read, I want to get something out of it.
Mhm.
But practice. It's amazing. Even your physical health. I mean, if you do a little exercise once in a while, I certainly could do much more. Like I'm not. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, you have to pay attention to who you want to be. So.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And are there any particular success stories that stand out for you with Path, with
Mhm.
maybe a client that maybe had a struggle, and is there something that really you remember from that inspired you? I mean, there's a lot of stories. I hear them all the time from the rest of the staff, but is there something for you that sticks out?
There's so much in that way. I feel like I'm riding on somebody else's success to talk about what somebody else has accomplished.
But
To see,
you lead this team, so you're a part
yeah,
of it.
yeah,
So
certainly when I see people that, some of our key principles are, like how do we look at the individuals that we work with?
mhm,
And we want to take a positive approach to look at what people can do as opposed to what they can't do.
exactly.
And I think in the last several years, well, last few years anyway, accommodation has become a really important aspect of our work with people with disabilities, and to see people that obtain jobs where an employer is willing to alter their work times, allow them more frequent breaks, all those kinds of things. When I think about that kind of stuff, I kind of think of the disasters too, that, And I remember a client in my past where we came to see her frequently. She's in a wheelchair. She came to see her frequently in the office. And I think, we gave her some, she was doing the volunteer work to build up her work experience. And so we all came to know her and care about her. And she was successful in getting a job. And so I didn't see her anymore. I go into my office, interact with the staff, but I don't see, the individual clients on a regular basis. And she wasn't coming in because she was working, right? So, well, then, a couple of months pass, and then I see her back in the office again. And so, I find out who she'd been working with as her employment counselor and found out what the story was. And the employer had changed their technology so that they were going to be using a different platform. And this individual felt that she couldn't make the change. She couldn't learn it. And she was, and she had all the capacity to learn. She might need the training broken down a little differently, maybe in smaller chunks, so maybe a little more repetition and practice. But she felt she couldn't do it. And she quit her job. So it took a lot of effort for the employment staff to get her connected. So it was kind of like a major defeat for me to think, well, what went wrong? So got the work group together and we talked about what we could have done differently. And, where employment services is transforming today is about working with the most needy individuals, the people that face the most barriers, and not only getting them work, but helping them stay employed. And this was my story is an example of somebody where we were great getting her a job, but our relationship somehow failed. Where when she faced that challenge of new technology was going to be evolving in the work environment, we wanted was for her to reach out to her employment coordinator or her counselor and express those things. And we have every capability of going into the workplace or working with her offsite to help her develop the understanding of the new technology, develop whatever new skills she needed to be able to continue on in the work environment. I very much believe that, and I've seen examples where employers are totally willing to partner with us to help an individual that we've had some relationship with to help them to continue to succeed. So, as an organization, PATH will more and more get involved with the employers and their workers to, we want to maintain our relationships and we want to make a difference with helping people stay employed. So, there are great stories now with the work that the staff have done in being able to remediate problems and keep people employed. We now measure our retention rate with our people we place in jobs. And we threw the question, we were having a little fun in one of our staff meetings a couple of weeks ago with pop quizzes, and it was kind of, the staff kind of enjoyed answering the question. So if we did that with your audience, the pop quiz question would be what would you expect of the people that we place in employment? How many do you think would still be employed after 33 months? Well, things happen in work, right? Where, the work business conditions change, restructuring happens, and things in people's lives change, or maybe they had an episodic type of disability and something's flared up again. So the pop quiz question would be, well, what would the percentage be that you'd expect to still be employed after 3 months? Well, I would have thought maybe between 60 and 65%. Well, the PATH team, the results that we're achieving are over 80%. So I think the last time I saw numbers, it was 82%. So, that reflects a lot of good work going on. The relationship continues. The staff and our individuals we're placing are communicating. This is, that's a great success. So you know, Catherine, just every day I can find something to be really excited about.
Yeah, that's
from the
true.
work.
Yeah, there isn't any one story. It's a daily thing, and it does change because every client we have is unique and has a, it's a unique situation, and our staff go so far above and beyond to help them with their successes. I love working with the team. I'm quite happy with my job.
Yeah, we know you do. It's reflected in the way you go about doing your job. So,
Yeah.
that's a message for everybody that, you're embarking on a career. Simple message, as I just kind of underscore some of my key points, is don't forget about getting ready for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw a guy one time we interviewed, I was at HRDC, and he was the epitome of being prepared for a job interview. He was applying for jobs as an employment counselor. He knew the training that we gave to employment counselors. I talked about that earlier in my presentation, that there was some new training that he got his hands on a textbook. He was, he had a great university education. It was not a stretch for him to be able to read a textbook. He read the textbook. He learned about the structured format that we have a map, a roadmap that we follow in counseling. He learned about what that roadmap was. And when we asked him questions about employment counseling, we were dumbfounded to hear him talk in such detailed knowledge of what the processes were. So here's a guy that knew he was going to be applying for a job as an employment counselor, knew what the knowledge requirements were, what the abilities requirements were, what the skill requirements were, and he prepared himself for the interview. Me, I always was like, get me on the job. I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to deliver the results, and they're going to, be so happy with the work I do. They're going to want to give me a job. Well, sometimes that works for you, that can work in a small organization, but if you're applying to bigger organizations, working hard is always important. Getting a good job evaluation, I'm not minimizing that at all. But I mean, when if the process that you're in your workplace is you've got to, experience interviews, spend some time thinking about what you need to do to get prepared for the interview. And I know everybody's going to be nervous. Employment counselors, we hear this all the time. How do you get over nervousness? You don't give up.
Yeah.
You got to practice. The more interviews you do, and my struggle to be an employment counselor, I don't know how many interviews I went through. Eventually, you start to get better at it. The one interview, the job I got, we laughed through the interview most of the time. A sense of humor is a really important thing in a work environment. Everybody likes to have a laugh now and then. To enjoy your work, I mean, for sure is important. But, I was so relaxed after a while and I knew what the questions were that they were going to ask me. I'd reviewed beforehand what my answers were going to be. I was popping those answers out without any difficulty. And I could be in the interview. I could appreciate the expertise in the room that was asking me the questions, and we just had a great time. And who got the job? Well, I did. But I think back on my career, I could have moved forward more quickly if I would have paid more attention to the interview process. Working hard, doing good work is very important, but don't, and know what the requirements are. You don't always have to have a university degree. Like if you're just thinking about my position, and there's equivalencies. Your combination of duties, the experience that you've had, the quality of references that you can obtain, those things are very important as well. So
and be prepared.
Certainly be prepared. And didn't we learn that back in Cubs, actually?
Girl Guides.
Girl Guides. There you go.
Be prepared.
Right. It's the truth. It always is the truth.
It is, absolutely. So I was going to ask you if you had any tips for someone thinking about getting into this type of work, but we kind of covered it all through our conversation. There's, is there anything else that you can add?
Well, the only other thing I'd add is, the workplace evolves and the skill requirements evolve. So I think, to be complacent, you got your university degree, or not to make light of that, it wasn't easy. And I know how, people struggle to obtain their credentialing. But workplaces evolve, and
Mhm.
I've seen in my career, I mentioned there wasn't the internet. Well, obviously the internet and social media, and the various software packages that can help you multiply the impact the work you can produce in the office. So there's this continual learning that's really important in anybody's career. I bet if you've talked to other individuals in this series, they've talked about ongoing learning, and it doesn't always have to be I got to take a university course. I've always felt there's a lot of room for self-learning as well. So appreciate what your goals are and what you want to accomplish, and then find a means to learn it. I mean, the internet's amazing on the amount of research you can do and information you can gather. I think, to reach out to others too, to get a sense of how they're approaching their work. And, sometimes that can be inspiring and help you appreciate what you don't know. So, if you
Yeah.
don't know something, how are you going to know? You got to,
Yeah.
anyway. So, I think an appreciation for lifelong learning is really important. And, always reading, kind of cutting edge stuff. I think about some of the books I read on customer service, and did an awful lot of reading in team development, self-directed work teams, and that type of stuff. But that can be inspiring and open your eyes up to some pretty cool stuff. So anyway, I think within everything I said, lifelong learning is pretty important. But I guess one other thing I thought about I would talk about was, we do this in employment counseling, where we talk about try to convey the concept that goal setting, goal directed behavior is far more effective than behavior that's otherwise. So to sit down in some point in your career and decide what your goals are. When you're in management, you take these management courses, and they talk about setting your goals and setting daily goals and doing one thing towards accomplishing that goal. I mean, it absolutely works. And, if one is highly motivated to succeed, then set goals. If you're struggling with achieving your goals, then reach out and try to find a good mentor, people that'll support you. And I was lucky in my career, I had good ones. And I got a board of directors now that I got great people that are full of advice and guidance, and it's on me to, know when to reach out to them to take advantage of their backgrounds and expertise. So everybody should have a board of directors behind them.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Brad, for talking to us and talking to us about your career. I know what you do personally, and it's nice to share this with others. And you've had an incredible journey, and I'm happy to be working under you and with this team and at this organization. I'm always learning. I have to keep learning. My job changes every day with what I need to do, so it's exciting. It's never boring, and yeah, I'm just really happy to be a part of this, and doing these interviews is been my learning as well. So it's been awesome.
Well, thanks, Catherine. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share some information on my background. But like today's Christmas Eve, a lot of the staff are off now, and you're there at the grindstone, pumping out another one of these videos, and
one more.
we know that it's value to some people out there, and hopefully that my contribution stands for what it is. But I do want to thank you personally for the great work that you do for PATH, and your dedication to more than that too. Your concern for helping others, and your volunteer efforts, and all that, you know, you do so much, and you know, it should be acknowledged, and
Thank
we
you, Brad.
appreciate what you bring to us. And so I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, Catherine. And if people will probably be watching this later, but hopefully they had a good Christmas, and hopefully 2021 is, it was a good year for, 2020 was a good year for PATH, even though we
Yeah.
had the pandemic. You know, I've got no complaints. We had to do things differently, and I missed the close contact with people. But, you know, we're going to get through this, and the remote stuff that we do has been a benefit to so many, and
Mhm.
our clientele with disabilities. It's made lives easier. And still we're being able to do, you know, very credible work. So I got to believe 2021 is going to be a great year. I hope you're looking at it the same way, Catherine.
I am, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of changes happening. I'm hoping they're all good. And like, I wish everyone a safe and happy and healthy holiday. And let's hope 2021 is a new year and a better year and for everybody.
Thanks a lot, Catherine.
Thank you so much, Brad, for being my guest.
My pleasure.
Take care.